Hello, everyone. If you love comedy, then you don't want to miss today's episode of the Writer's Corner live show. Our guest is the extremely multi-talented creative Thorsten Nesch with his book, I Am You, Am I, The Body Switch Comedy. Don't go away. We'll be right back. If you are just joining us, welcome to the Writer's Corner live show. If you are not following us, make sure you do so you can get notified the next time we go live. I'm your hostess, Mary Elizabeth Jackson. I live in Nashville, near Nashville in the United States. In today's show, we're going to be talking to Thorsten Nesch. If this is your first time watching this show, let us know, and then we can give you a shout out to welcome you. This live stream is made possible by Creative Edge and StreamYard. Our guest today, Thorsten, is a singer-songwriter, so I already love him, and an award-winning author published in the traditional publishing houses with more than 1,500 live readings in a dozen countries. That's amazing. At schools, universities, book fairs, and even on cruise ships. We'll have to ask him about that. Thorsten received literary art grants and was invited for a number of writers' residencies in Denmark and Germany. Such an amazing life. His style is a stroke of luck, jury of hands, and Gluck work. So we want to welcome Thorsten Nesch to our show. Welcome, Thorsten.
Hi.
Hi, Thorsten. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. I forgot about our little video there. So anyways, yes, we want to make you feel very, very important when you come on the show.
It's an amazing intro.
Do you feel special?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, you've traveled all over the world. You've done so many amazing things. How did you end up in Canada?
Love.
Love.
I was backpacking in '98 on the West Coast in Vancouver, and after 5 weeks in Victoria in British Columbia, I met my wife in the youth hostel, my future wife, and she was from Calgary. So we now live in Lethbridge. That's like 200 kilometers south.
Okay, so that sounds like a story right there. Have you written about that?
And that is a very short version of the whole story. But, yeah.
Awesome. That is amazing. Okay, so, first of all, before we get into the book we're talking about today, I Am You, Am I, The Body Switch Comedy, which you can find on Amazon. One of your books is a prescribed reading book for high schools in Germany. Tell us how that happened, and that must have been very exciting for you.
Yeah, the English title of the book would be The Drone Pilot, and it's a book about a 17-year-old. It's the setup is that he plays an online game, as many people do, but it turns out that online game is basically a training video to become a drone pilot, and at the end he gets this offer to do this. It takes place in the near future. And all the books, like I Am You, Am I as well, the German version, was read in schools between Denmark and Italy in high schools and middle schools. So I had the record already that I'm good in front of people and the kids like my books, right? Like the teachers usually said, like, if I read a book with one of your books, I know they read it to the end. And many kids came up to me and said, like, your novel was the first novel that I read to the end. And that is, for me, the biggest literary award you can get, actually. that you make somebody read, a young person. So I think it was a steady development over 10 years about that, to reach the point that one province in Germany said, you have to read this book in all schools if you want to do the high school degree. Right. So, and they chose then the drone pilot, and it came out with the secondary literature, right? So it's in German language arts, German, it's my book, and in English language arts, you have to read 1984.
Oh, okay. So, you made a good point. I think that as an author, that would be such a huge, huge award and accolade just to have the kids reading that and it be I think that for some authors, that's their dream, is to be able to have their book be a prescribed reading for kids, and to know that you're affecting them literacy wise, because we are, as writers and authors, we're trying to get kids to love the art and the words of literacy. So, what inspired you to write I Am You, Am I, the Body Switch comedy? What inspired you to write that?
Yeah, I before I Am You, Am I wrote a novel about a young couple that steals money and escapes to Albania, where they kind of dive under and not to get caught. On top, she decides to cross-dress to get away as a guy. So the people in Germany, they would look after, a young man and a young woman. So, that's how they wanted to escape that. And so many situations during the cross-dressing and trying to be undercover all the time kind of triggered this idea, what if there would be that switch? And then, of course, it is done in literature, it is done in movies, right? Like, so I did the research, and then I had the additional idea during my research, because I don't want to write what's already there. Yeah. So I had the idea, what if one of them doesn't want to switch back? And I was like, yeah, I didn't hear that one, right? And what I also thought, like, well, if this really would happen or could happen, I think it would be a little bit more juicy, or more like, like, especially when you're like write young adult fiction. The next idea was, do I take a young couple again, or do I take an older couple? But then I settled for the 15-year-olds because I thought that would be the biggest hilarity.
That is hilarity, absolutely. And was your book? This book was inspired by anyone in your life, or something you watched on TV, or just it created itself in your mind?
Every novel that I write has a long history before. So this one has a shorter one. That means, like, it took me about 2 years to come to the story and then sit down and write it. But it might take up to 16 or 17 years before I start a novel. That happened also twice. So I plan a lot, and I see, like, what are the possibilities, which routes I can take, who does it happen to, what is the tone of the voice, where does it take place. This particular novel in German, it takes place in my hometown where I was living at the time. But the translator, we had a good conversation that was at the university at Vancouver. I said, like, you know what, if you translate it and transfer it to Vancouver, the location. So that was also really interesting. So I'm not clinging necessarily always to things I don't have to cling on. I took the freedom of kind of nodding to a childhood friend with this novel, because the boy in this novel, he's a hobby boxer. Okay, so just to set up, he is a hobby boxer, and she's and from a more poor background, and she's a rich girl that likes horseback riding, and they switch bodies. That alone implies a couple of problems with her hobbies. And so on top, he has a condition with the nose where the nose is constantly running. And I had a friend like that in elementary school, and we know that this could be only stopped when he grew out of up to 23, and then they could do surgery. And I was like, always, what did happen to him? How is that when you're 15 and 16 and your nose is running constantly, not a little bit, constantly, right? So, and I gave that to the boy here in the novel. So sometimes life.
Oh, that's funny. So you wouldn't have a lot of dates.
Yeah, you know, like
you wouldn't go on a lot of dates with him running.
Yeah, it is rough. Yeah, he had, you know, a lot of teasing alone just in 3rd and 4th grade, right? Like, so. Yeah, you can't hide it.
Right.
It's like it's something I've never encountered afterwards. I just always had that. It's like, yeah, that was my best buddy.
When things like that happen to you.
Sorry, the audio kind of dropped out a little.
Well, and you know, school growing up, and they're the kid who has the something, right? That's what we always remember them for. Even as an adult, we have those memories are so ingrained. So when we think about that person, there's somebody I went to elementary, middle, and high school, and there was something, and so that's my memory of this person, and so that really, it's amazing the impression that happens. I want to back up for a second because you've traveled a lot, you've done readings, schools, university. How did you end up on cruise ships?
It was like when my first novel came out. I was invited to the Leipzig Book Fair, and I had a reading at the Leipzig Book Fair. By the time, I already did I don't know, 600-800 readings in the underground, being like pubs and cafes and parks, wherever So I felt comfortable on stage and stuff. So. And I know before the reading at the Leipzig Book Fair, I asked my my PR agent, because she was really nice, and B, she was connected. I didn't have any connection. There is my book, it comes out, but I don't know anybody. She knew everybody across Germany and Switzerland and Austria, right? So, and I was like, you know everybody, you introduce me to everybody, all the interviews. What about you? Can you connect me for readings, because I'm not too bad in doing readings, and I can get you, I don't know, 15%, or like. And she was laughing like, no, I'm a PR agent for this publishing house, right? I'm like, oh no, okay. So, but I was up there and did my reading, and the security had to come to unclog the walkways because everybody stopped, and there were in the minute there were hundreds of people blocking the alleyways at the Leipzig Book Fair. And after half an hour, I threw down the book, and I said, that was thanks, and the applause came, right? And the PR agent said, like, I'll do this. I get you a reading tour, right? And then she sent me, the first tour was like 3 weeks constant, Switzerland, Austria, and Germany, of course. And she was then the one, 1 year, 2 years later, you kind of grow. First, they sent you to smaller readings, then to bigger ones. And then there was this offer for a cruise ship for giving workshops and doing readings there. And I don't have to pay for anything. I'm like, yeah, I'm down with that.
Yeah, right. So this was pre-pandemic, correct?
Sorry? Yeah, pre-pandemic. Yeah, everything.
Was this before the pandemic? Yeah, I was going to say. So yeah, right. So what have you done then? Because we have had to adjust and pivot as authors so much during this time. So how did you just take everything online for readings?
There were some opportunities, but also, since I moved to Canada, I cannot do those regular tours in Germany anymore, and they were paid, right? Like, I have to always say that here, because I think it's not often that you're paid, and you're not paid by your publishing house, you're paid by the schools, right? And by the libraries and all that. So that was definitely an income that just broke away, right? And I had to kind of balance that end of my income. So I have a part-time job here again, and what also again frees me up in a way. I really embrace the time, because it's in the evenings where I'm not productive. So during the day, I still write 30 hours, what I did when I was a full-time author. Nothing really changed, So I got a grant.
Okay, one of the key things.
I got during the pandemic.
Go ahead.
I got a literary arts grant from the Alberta Foundation for the Arts to write a novel over a year. So I got a certain amount of money every month, and to just fully concentrate again on writing the novel. And I finished the novel now, and right now it's with a publishing house and a few agents, and I see what happens. So that was kind of then my pandemic in a nutshell.
That's amazing. And what I was going to say is, you are a testament to being patient, diligence, and persistence, because it's like you said, it's taken you a while to do the books. So for folks out there who are wanting to write and feeling that they're putting that pressure on themselves because they think maybe there's a certain amount of time they need to get it done in, it's just to be patient. Would that be your advice?
That brings me back to the time when I made the decision. So my background, family-wise, is like, that was blue collar, and nobody was artist, or nobody was self-employed even, right? So I never had this blueprint in front of me. It's like, oh yeah, it's Uncle so-and-so. It's like, that didn't happen. So it took me until I was like 23-ish, 23 years old, when I made the decision to work so I can write. So I left the university, for example, and I said, like, yeah, probably for the rest of my life. That, when you talk patience, okay, this was my thinking as a 23-year-old. It's for the rest of my life, it's worthwhile to do a part-time job as long as I can write on the other side, accepting that I probably will never be able to live of it. I definitely had the luck 100% for over 10 years. What is amazing, and when you think about like trying to imagine things, it was even better than I imagined. And I imagined it every day, and I have a big imagination. But going on a schoolyard, and a year later, after you've been there last year, and you still have kids come up and, hey, Mr. Nesch, hey, that was awesome last year. Can I come this year to your reading as well? That's gold. That's absolutely, I never thought of that before, because I never pictured myself as a young adult fiction author, and I write both now. So.
That's beautiful. I can just see that vision of them coming up to you, and your heart, it just makes your heart feel so good to have those little fans, of yours with that. So I think it's a really good point bringing up that you went into this without a falsity of thinking that you're going to write and then be famous and have all this money. And it's the same way in songwriting, because you're a songwriter as well. And with songwriting, it's the same way. And you have, if you're going to do this, it needs to be a love that you're doing, or know that you're, you may never make a dime off what you're doing. It needs to be a passion. So I do think that, that was really on your side for going into this. What I'd love to ask you to do now is to read a little bit from I Am You, Am I? And thank you to everyone who's joining us. And we are talking to Thorsten Nesch about his book, I Am You, Am I? The Body Switch Comedy. So will you hold up the book for us so we can, well, I know it. Will you read a little bit for us from the book?
So, the book that I hold up is a Kindle?
Yeah, I know, right? There's your Kindle. Yes. Yes. All your books are sold out. You have no copies. You're sold out. Yeah,
everybody asks you, like, do you have a copy? And then eventually, you give away last copy. It happened to me that I even gave away my reading copies, because the reading copies, I cut off even part of the cover, because I write in them, and I edit them for readings usually. So I always say, like, if you see a reading of mine, it's a little bit like a theater play where you see a different version of the book as you read it, even partially, right? And with just what I rather back just slightly again to the music, to the singer-songwriter. That literally, if you talk patience, so over 30 years I was writing songs, and only since a year I can record them properly, right? Like, so I release an EP, those are 4 songs a month, since over a year now, but it wasn't possible before. So, and for 29 years, I just had to write songs and play them for myself, so sometimes even it takes decades for a project to start. So I read a little excerpt of I Am You, Am I, Body Switch Comedy. I talked a little bit about it. Here, this is the opening scene pretty much. The girl, Nicole, she sits in the morning before going to school in the washroom in front of the mirror and prepares herself to get ready for school. And she thinks, how any self-respecting girl or woman can forego makeup is truly a mystery to me. Water, soap, makeup, upright walk, house training, all the same league. My mom steps in the hallway. I don't turn around. Instead, I observe the door crack through the mirror. Before Mom's face appears under her dyed black pixie, the long pointy toes of her frog green shoes materialize. They are all the rage this summer. She read that in one of her many lifestyle magazines. She enters, turning on her runner-up smile a little too late. And so I catch a glimpse of the narrow bar that her dark red lips from whenever she thinks nobody's looking. She dashes past me to the window where the potted plants sit next to a water-filled spray bottle, same as in every room of the house. Are you done? She asks. Then hissing sounds behind me. 1, 2, 3, 6 sprays, 2 misty clouds for every plant. A different plant family grows in every room. In the living room, it's a yucca palm. She also told me the name of these ones, but I've forgotten. Yeah, I say, and put my brushes, blush, and the powder back into my makeup case. Before I can stand, she's beside me. With both hands, she strokes my braid. In contrast to her dyed hair, mine looks blonder than usual. Our eyes meet in the mirror. Your hair is so beautiful, she says. Yeah. You're so pretty, Nicole. I know. I'm proud of you. I smile at her. I love you. Love you too. She hugs me and I stand up so that she can take a seat. It's her turn in front of the mirror. We make a good team, you and I, she says. So that's kind of like to set the tone kind of the background from the girl, right? Versus the next would be a total shamble household with a single dad that is into Tom Waits raising a boxer boy, and and then they switch. So these and the chapters go always in the first person narration back and forth. So this is out of her perspective, and the next from the boy. And then I always say, like, because there's an audiobook that is not read by me, it's read by Casey Hollowell. She's an actor in the US, and she did an amazing job. Just do yourself a favor and check it out, how she reads the two voices. I was thrilled when I heard that.
Oh, it's so nice when somebody gets your vision and then they can bring it to fruition for you. It's I don't know. There's nothing like it in the whole world. It really is an amazing feeling. Now you won an award. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, it's it took a few years to win the award, and before I was always joking with my colleagues. I met all the colleagues, wonderful colleagues, young adult fiction and other authors. And I was always joking, I get them to read and then you get the award, right? But because like I was nominated numerous times. So my first novel was nominated as best German debut as well. So it didn't win the award.
Nice.
And it kind of, I was there at the show and I heard what they were saying. And so the mayor of the city was there. There were 400 people. It was, we sat first row, the authors, right? And then there were always, we did a reading each, like a 50-minute reading. And then the winner was announced. And the winner wasn't me, upon which all the crowd was screaming and hollering that I should have won that thing. And and the mayor had to calm down the people. And I also went up and said, please, like we have to, I was crushed inside because of, honestly, I thought, yeah, I deserve this one in comparison, but hey, I didn't get it, so it's fair play, right? Like I can't change it. So, but yeah, the people were really upset. And I know it's such a great book. It should have, right? Like it just has so, but yeah,
wow.
So a lot of, I wasn't the guy who was 19-year-old winning the award and being published. It took years, and any down, a sucker punch before that to get to those moments, right? I had 120 rejection letters in the 90s for my novels saying they were too film-like. They see them too. They wrote that back, meanwhile, right? It wasn't anonymous then, and I was like, if my novel is film-like, I actually did my job from my point.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, you did. And today that's what you would want, because you'd want to be pitching the book to a publisher and to a film agent. So they were too behind the times back then.
And Germany has this, like, they split literature into contemporary and kind of high literature. So you can either be entertaining or eloquent, And for me, it's like, no, I like the middle path. I like the Anglophone way of storytelling. And that's what I got told in Germany a lot, that I'm not, that's a quote, not in the tradition of German literature. And I'm like, yeah, I live with that.
Yeah. What are you going to do? So you just jumped the pond and came over here, right? And said, I'm going to come where somebody gets what I'm doing. So you mentioned you have a book that's kind of sitting there at a publisher waiting to hear. Is this your next project, or if this is your newest project? Can you tell us what it's about? Is it another comedy? Is it,
Yeah, that's where I'm the nightmare of my publishing houses, because they, of course, want to have a second part and a third part of sort of the thing that, and I'm like, well, in the past, the 10, 15 years that it took to become a full-time author at the time, I did the odd jobs from working in a bar to in the beginning, pizza delivery. Later, it got more like into journalism. I didn't do all these jobs to not protect the freedom that I need to write the story I need to write. And this can be young adult fiction. It can be contemporary literature, or other genres. And like the Drone Pilot, this is more like a dystopian. It's a dystopian novel that is right now that I'm pitching, if you want, or querying. And it takes place in the year 2112. And it has a darker theme to it. What is suicide? But for me, then it's a challenge. I did that in the past with other themes like that, that I want to deliver it in a palatable way, where I reach out a hand, and it's more than just that. And the society is like, I make up a society in the future where so many people are living. And my thought was always like, if we want to help those people to avoid that, is the society right now doing everything we can do? And I feel not. So, and I, as an author, I spin this further. What if in the future the society said, yeah, just do it. Yeah, go ahead. So, and that is a very, cynism, right? Cynistic approach. And the research was heavy. Of course, but because I go also into psychology and stuff, I really want to know the topic when I wrap my mind around it. And but then there is, of course, the other story that underlies everything, like the struggle of the protagonist to when he comes to the decision, why not, and so that was that book took from idea to now 17 years to write. So, so that was a long research. And I was up to like 3 years ago, I didn't feel like I had it, right? Like there was something missing always. Yeah.
Wow. Well, you for me, listening to you, and it's been so amazing to have you on our show. Thank you so much for being here. I know we have to wrap it up, and we have to have you back on after this next book comes out. But you have really touched on some very important, logical advice for authors and writers out there. Just to be patient. Don't rush your book. No. Don't be sloppy. Really put time and effort into it, even if it takes you 17 years. So I really admire that with you and in you and in your ethic of work. So it's a really great gold nugget to take away from today. So we have been talking to Thorsten Nesch today. I Am You, Am I, the Body Switch comedy. You can get it on Amazon. And Thorsten, we're going to have you on again.
Nice. I would love to come back to you.
Absolutely. So thank you for watching. Remember to write good stuff and be patient. Be inspired one conversation at a time. You are watching the Writers Corner live show today. And until next time, goodbye for now. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.